Okay, just so everybody knows, this meeting is being recorded. It will be posted on the NEWRA website. I'd like to remind everyone to please be respectful of our guests, our speakers, our friends and neighbors. Let's give everyone enough time to ask questions and speak. So we just have a slight agenda change tonight. We've got an addition. Barb Fromell, who is from the company that owns One Canal, the apartment buildings next to the government center garage. We've added her to the agenda and we've moved things around a bit. After city council candidate Tanya Del Rio speaks, Sierra D'Amico is going to talk to us about outside dining. She has another community meeting to go, and thank you very much to Chris Cook and Nikki Stewart for letting her slide in their spots. So I just wanted to give you a couple of quick updates on things that have been going on. The BPDA is meeting today. They started meeting late this afternoon, and the Cross Street Hotel project was on the agenda. I don't know where it stands. I don't know if they voted to approve or if it was deferred. Well, I guess we'll find out at some point. There was a group of people who met with Gazit. They are the developer who wants to add on and go up Marketplace Center building over at Faneuil Hall by where Clark's and Banana Republic are. The folks at Armenian Heritage Park, the Greenway, Wharf District, Christopher Columbus, and Dave Kubiak and Victor Branya and I met with Allison Lees a couple of weeks ago, talked about height, shadows, things like that, and we're hoping to hear from them in the next few months. Dave was gracious enough to share a draft letter with Allison Lees, and we're hoping that we can talk with the developer and see where things stand. There is going to be an outdoor dining meeting on Zoom next Thursday night. Sierra will talk a little bit about that when she speaks. She's our new North End liaison representative. We're planning at the next meeting, April 14th, that the city will come in and give us some highlights about what the plan is to fix our streets and sidewalks after outdoor dining ends in September for 3 months. Hopefully they'll have that some type of a preliminary timeline that they can share with us. We're hoping that, if all goes well with COVID, we'll be able to have our party in the fall. We're also the pilot house hasn't quite opened up for the public yet. They're getting ready to go back into the office later this month, a day or two a week. So fingers crossed that things progress and we can all get together in a couple of months and have a nice celebration. I'm going to introduce Mary McGee, whom I think you all know. She's going to give us a quick overview about how you go about voting on at a NEWRA meeting, and she's going to talk about the election that we're going to have in October. Mary, let me unmute you because everybody's muted. So Mary, you should be unmuted.
Okay.
And take it away, please.
Okay. I have a few things to say about membership and voting, but first I'd like to thank Cheryl for agreeing to stay on as president and seeing us through the pandemic, because it's been a tremendous amount of work, but we've managed to keep meeting. We've managed to have well-attended meetings and very active agendas. And if she had not agreed to stay with us, and in a form of involuntary servitude, you might say, I really don't know what we would have done. But the fact is that we are planning to return to our normal operations and have our regular elections this fall in October. And that being said, we need to have a nominating committee of 3 people, and they are to be appointed by our president, but we certainly would want anybody who's interested in being on the committee to indicate their interest. And the best way to do that is to send an email to newra.board@gmail.com. And maybe someone can put this on the chat for me.
I just did. Yeah.
Thanks, Cheryl. So again, the elections will be in October, but we'd like to get the nominating committee started as soon as possible and start contacting people. And again, here, that also, if anybody is interested in being an officer, we would really be interested in hearing from you. And just a further thing about the elections is that if you plan to vote in the elections, there are basically two requirements. One is that you have to have attended 2 meetings in the prior 6 months. And the other is that your dues have to be current. In other words, you've paid for 2022. And in terms of your attendance, I'd just like to mention that if you're on your, I'm the one who actually keeps the attendance. I have a list of all of the members, but if you are listed on the screen only as a first name or only as a telephone number or something like that, I'm not necessarily picking you up. I mean, there's some people that I know or I can see, but that's not true of everyone. So I understand that people don't necessarily want their name on for every Zoom that they attend, but perhaps for these meetings, just to make sure that your attendance is noted, you could put your full name so you can make sure that I've got it. And the other thing is too, please make sure that your dues are up to date, and it's very easy to pay the dues online. Just go to NEWRA.org. You can pay with a credit card, and then you'll be all set. Because there are some people who attend regularly but haven't paid their dues since 2020. So, or in some cases even earlier. So, you know, you're attending the meetings, you should be able to vote, but if you are not current on your dues, you can't. So I just suggest that people do that. And then just one more follow-up on voting, that another thing that's been happening lately, and it's kind of understandable because some of the meetings are long, the agendas are full, but people are attending the meeting, but then not voting. And, you know, we'll have a meeting that has a good attendance, but then when the votes are counted at the end of the evening, it's just not reflective of how many members were actually at the meeting. So my suggestion is this, that if you have to sign out early, just send in your vote before you do so or when you do so. And the email for voting is the same one that I just gave you for contacting the board if you want to be on the nominating committee. It is newra.board@gmail.com. And excuse me, if you are voting, all you need to do is put the matter that you're voting on and whether your vote is yes or no, or support or not support. And you can vote for, if you have sat through a meeting and there are several things that have been presented, you can vote for all of them at the same time. But if you were only able to stay long enough for one matter, you can vote on that. But again, just please send it in newra.board@gmail.com. And I think that's all that I have to say about voting and membership at this point. We'll talk more about the elections in future meetings.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. And, you know, it's really important that everybody vote, that you all have a voice. I mean, there's a lot going on in this neighborhood in terms of development and just changes that are happening. And, you know, use your vote, have a voice. It's, you know, the more people that participate, you know, the louder our voices and the more people take notice. You know, we have a great community that, you know, we all love living here and we all want to protect it, what we have, and we want to welcome new people here, and we want to see this neighborhood grow and thrive, but we need to work together so that we have some type of a vision. Anyway, and with that, I would like to introduce Tanya Del Rio, who is running for our city council spot that is being vacated by Lydia Edwards. Tanya, thank you so much for the last meeting, which really was a very long meeting. I'm opening up your mic. We appreciate very much you delaying and coming back this month to talk to us. You wouldn't have come on till about 8:45, and I think we had all kind of had it at that point. So without further ado, Tanya, please tell us about yourself, the important issues that you think we're facing, how you'd like to work with us, and we'll take a few questions.
Sounds good. Yeah, and thank you, Cheryl, for hosting this meeting, and everybody at the Neighborhood Association. It's a pleasure to be here and to have a chance to introduce myself. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Tanya Del Rio. I'm first and foremost a mother. I'm a BPS mom of one kid, and hopefully the second one will be in BPS next year. I'm an immigrant originally from Mexico City, and I'm running for the seat. I'm a leader that has proven results in the community and in city government already, and I'm going to share a little bit about that with you tonight. I want to be, if elected to this seat, voice that's really advocating for keeping this community together. And our community is facing a number of push factors that are keeping people from staying in the neighborhood as they would like in many cases. We have an urgent crisis, and it's really for displacement, and it's really time for our leaders to take action. People are being pushed out because there's not enough workforce housing, or too much of it is turning into luxury condos in a way that's not planned and not really taking into account the community conversation that's happening, and how can we, if we develop responsibly. A lot of people are feeling pushed out also because they're feeling difficult choices when it comes to school, and shortcomings in BPS, especially as they think about a pathway to a high school and to a quality education at that level. And also, especially in the North End, I've already heard from neighbors who are feeling like flooding's becoming a mainstay in their lives, unfortunately, and it's draining the pocketbooks with frequent and more frequent repairs that they have to do with flooded basements or damaged homes. And so we have to come together in a new way, I believe, and fight to stop that. So I'll take a few minutes just to share my personal story with you and why I came to care so much about this district. I came to Boston originally as a graduate student, and after I completed my master's in public policy degree, I settled here, and my husband and I found a home. And after growing up in many different places as a child between my native Mexico and the US, following my dad's job, it really meant a lot to me to have those roots and to be in a community where I felt like neighbors and even city government, in my case, could have our back. So after I graduated in 2016, and with the backdrop of the presidential election of that year, I found out that my job at the Consulate of Mexico, where I was working to support immigrant communities and was able to help people from many walks of life, from people who needed their documentation to go back home or to be able to have a life here, to people who were in immigration detention or prison, that I would visit and make sure that they could have a human being that they could, that was looking out for them. So in 2016, I found out that my job was going to require me to exchange my green card for a temporary visa. And this was a really scary prospect, given the backdrop of the rhetoric against immigrants, because it would have meant in my case that I would lose my pathway to citizenship here. And when it came time to choose between my job and my green card, it was extra scary too, because my husband was in the middle of what ended up being a 3-year wait for his immigration paperwork. He was a student at Quincy College, and we were raising a 1-year-old. But as I said, we were nervous, but also hopeful, because we saw that Boston was a place where neighbors would stick together and have each other's back. And in my case, it meant individuals coming to my aid, like literally people I met at community meetings like this one, that would hear my story and take the time to sit down with me, introduce me to Boston, introduce me to people, friends, advise me on how I could get a job or how I could find childcare, so that my husband and I could could get ahead. To actually city government. For me, city government also had my back, and I'm running to make sure it has everybody's back in the same way it supported me. So not only was I able to find a job in City Hall, I was hired to work in the mayor's office and I was there for a couple of years. After that, I was ultimately appointed as the head of the Office of Women's Advancement for the city of Boston, where I'll tell you about the work I did, which I'm really proud of. But also through city government, we were able to find our housing. We qualified for an income restricted home ownership opportunity that allowed us to further set roots in this community. And I'll just tell you a little bit about what we did in City Hall. My proudest accomplishment was creating really what is now become an Office of Early Education. The whole childcare portfolio that the City of Boston had, we created in partnership with many city departments. At my Office of Women's Advancement, we launched the Childcare Entrepreneur Fund that supports childcare workers so that they can stay stable and provide the services for Boston's families. We are also launched the first ever childcare census to document parents' challenges with childcare and preferences. And so for me, I've seen it, right? I've seen how city government can work for a family. I want to make sure it works for everyone. I'll just tell you a little bit more about my background. After I served in City Hall, I led an organization, a nonprofit in Cambridge, the YWCA, which provides housing for 103 women who've been homeless or had dealt with different kinds of trauma. Additionally, a 10 family shelter. And it actually is housed in a historic building. So I learned more than I ever knew I would about how to preserve, how to value historical structures and how to be a good steward of them, and how to keep them running, like everything from fixing an elevator, dealing with flooding, like those kinds of things I've learned to value through my work at the Y. So in sum, like, I'm an experienced leader that has led city departments. I know what it's like to lead a full-on nonprofit organization with a big team and a big budget, and I've delivered real results for our communities. My experience, and I think this is something that makes me different from maybe politicians that you may be used to seeing, is goes beyond politics and campaigns. I have led on both sides, on the inside of city government and knowing every corner of City Hall, but also I know what it's like to be on the outside, to be an advocate, or to be an immigrant that doesn't quite know how the system works and just has to learn it. And my experience also just goes beyond assisting roles. I've been the decision maker, I've been the person in charge, and I think that has taught me to withstand a lot of the pressures that come with that, because it's really challenging work. On the personal side, I'm a mom of 2 kids. And so like many of you, I've been facing the challenges of parenting, especially through a pandemic, from remote school and the closures to navigating the complex system that is, even signing up for BPS. I've had to be, leaving work when the bus decided that it wouldn't be coming and would notify us at a moment's notice. Or I've been, the person participating intensely in my school site council to make sure that our school receives all the resources it needs. I've witnessed the commitment of our teachers and staff, but I also know, and I've heard from many parents in Charlestown, in the North End, that there is not a clear pathway to school after the elementary period. And so I want to make sure I'm able to convene stakeholders to chart that path forward, especially for Charlestown High School. And I just want to share with you that all of these experiences have led me here today. I do believe that they differentiate me from any candidate that you may be used to seeing. I've directly worked with people, sometimes in my job at the consulate, with people who are going through the worst moment of their lives, whether they're incarcerated, whether they're in immigration detention, whether they've just learned, and I've had to notify people that that their family member has passed away. And it's really helped me build an empathy that I think is going to allow me to serve with authenticity and heart. I have to note that we're also in a historic moment in our city. Voters in Boston have been choosing change in recent years, and I believe we've done a lot. We've accomplished a lot. You work as active neighborhood stewards, and you've achieved a lot. But I really do think the challenges that are happening today just require us to come together stronger and in a new way. And so as a city councilor, I would be fighting for quality schools in each part of the district. That includes an expansion to universal pre-K. It also, as I said earlier, includes charting a path forward together for Charlestown High School. I would push the city to invest in housing and home ownership programs like the one that helped my family to stop the displacement of more community members. And I'll strongly be advocating for a development and zoning process that's bringing neighbors in from the beginning and actually taking our voices into account. I'll fight for a green economy and for a waterfront that provides access for all and resiliency for our city. For me, Charlestown, the North End, and East Boston are all on different sides of the harbor, but at the same time, we're all on the harbor and we're facing the challenges of climate change, the COVID pandemic, development, and many others together. And if today the harbor separates us, we are going to be finding ways in which it can unite us. For me, as I said earlier, I've always felt welcome in our neighborhoods, in our district, like all previous waves of immigrants, because I know and I can see that our community really values and celebrates our diversity. We are a rich tapestry with many different threads, many different colors, many textures that run sometimes in different or opposite directions. But at the end of the day, those threads intertwine, they come together and they form what could be a beautiful work of art. That includes our small businesses, our transportation workers, hospitality, service industry workers, our seniors, our students, our parents, our city workers, our neighbors in recovery. Like, for me, that tapestry is us. And I recognize that people in this community have put blood, sweat, and tears into building our present. And I believe that they deserve the chance to stay and be a part of the future. So to finish, there would be no greater honor for me than to fight for a Boston that provides great opportunities for all of us here. So I'm humbly asking for your vote. I invite you to get involved in my campaign. You can visit my website at delrioforboston.com, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and that is to live in a district where we all can thrive. And I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you so much. All right, let's open the floor up to questions. Who has questions? I want to see some hands. I'm looking to see if anybody's actually putting up a literal hand. Come on, guys. Hold on. Dave, I'm going to open your mic. There you go. Okay, should be open. There you go, Dave.
There I go. Okay.
Okay.
Hello, Tanya. Thank you for that. That was a very impressive introduction to yourself and what concerns you in the city of Boston. You mentioned planning, zoning, and development, and you mentioned that you are an advocate in your neighborhood. Can you tell us something about what's happening in East Boston lately? The planning and the development that's occurring, any concerns that are being raised by the neighborhood? And then I'll put you on a bit of a spot and ask whether you support Mayor Wu's initiative to replace the BRA with a planning and development agency.
I'll start with that one. It doesn't put me on the spot at all because I've been very clear about that one. I do support it. I think it's a great idea to separate planning and development. And I really look forward to the mayor hiring a chief of planning because that way the planning effort will be accountable to the mayor, who is accountable to the people. And so that's the kind of cycle we want to create. Once we have plans and we can update the zoning code that's just hopelessly antiquated and requires every project to go for a variance, therefore making the rules just not clear to everyone. I think we need to overhaul that process, make it transparent, make it clear so that everyone knows what rules we are playing by and people don't feel, and this is what I think is currently happening, people don't feel like decisions are being made in the background without us, and that I feel like neighbors sometimes feel like they have to be on guard for every single project just to fight it. And sometimes we don't even like get a chance to look at a project for its merits, you know? So for me, I want to see the chief of planning create that general like neighborhood-wide plan, and then development following clear rules that we can all agree on. So I support that. And I'm looking forward to it. And then as far as what's happening in East Boston, it's a little bit of that. We're in the middle of a neighborhood-wide planning effort, and the first piece of it has come out, and it deals with the different squares that are in the neighborhood and what they're calling corridors. And it's identified areas of the neighborhood that can withstand more density, where it makes sense to develop, or, you know, certain parcels. Like earlier today, we were in a meeting for 355 Bennington, where, you know, it's like an eyesore, a blighted property that can stay. It's like really close to a T-stop, really close to a bus stop. It's going to be by the Silver Line, a place where it makes sense to have a little more density. At the same time, we've seen development happen kind of recklessly in places where it doesn't make sense. like in flood zones or like on our waterfront, that it closes people off from the waterfront. So for me, I'm looking forward to those plans being completed, those plans being inclusive, and then development following those, instead of having a parcel by parcel discussion that ends up being disjointed, and that at the end of the day doesn't take into account how the whole is affected and what amenities need to be provided with each development, etc. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you very much. I don't see any more questions. Last call. Oh, Jen, I'm opening your mic. Jen Crampton.
Hi, I share Dave's concerns about development, but I think your answer was great there, so I won't waste any more time on that subject. My other big hot button is Boston Public Schools. Both of my girls attend the Elliott right now, and we love it, but we really, given the changes that have happened with the exam school situation, I mean, and I don't think there should just be 3 schools that everybody wants to go to in the whole city. That seems crazy. We have world-class educational institutions all over the city, and there shouldn't be only 3 good high schools when you have thousands of kids that are going to, not the best schools, or they leave the city. There's plenty of people that fly out of here before high school to try to go somewhere else that has better schools. So we want to stay, but we need, we want to know that there's a sensible path, and maybe that I don't have to put my young kid on the T to go down to whatever school or whatever. Like, if Charlestown High School sounds amazing, but there seems to be a lot of pushback there from the community, and not turning it into another Elliott, which I think is a great idea because the Elliott's awesome and the Elliott is very inclusive and it's wonderful. But what do you see as some potential ideas for that change? And it doesn't just have to be about Charlestown High School. And if the plans aren't formed yet, that's fine. But like, what are your kind of like 3 bullet points about what could change?
Yeah, actually, Jennifer, thanks for touching on this. I'll just be like super honest. Like, at the beginning of my campaign, many, like consultants or people that advise politicians came to me and said, please do not focus on education, because that's like, it's not a winning issue. You cannot solve it. It's really hard. It's touchy, like just focus on other things. But I just feel like I can't, like, I have to, 1, because I'm a mother, and 2, because I cannot knock on a door in Charlestown or in many places in the North End if I find parents, and it is brought up all the time. And so it's clear in my mind to me that that is one of the top concerns of the constituents of this district. And so I ended up kind of even changing the plans that I was doing for my campaign, and I launched education, which we were going to launch third. We launched our education plan first, so that people knew that we were going to be unafraid in dealing with this issue. And I really do believe this district needs a counselor that understands what's going on in BPS specifically for this district. So my I guess my assessment or my understanding of this is very much aligned with what you just shared. People in the district are very happy with the schools in the lower grades. I hear it from the Warren Prescott, from the Elliott, from the Harvard Kent. I'm a parent at the Allegheny in East Boston, and people in those schools are all very happy and satisfied. I'll say with the quality and the staff and what the humans are doing in the schools, we can talk about facilities another day, because that's one issue where I really want to pay some attention. Except, the Elliott's lucky you have great facilities, but many of BPS schools are crumbling. And I've had an opportunity to visit most of the schools in the district, and there's a lot to be done. I've seen children learning in the hallway or whatever. But specifically about the issue you're touching upon on Charlestown High School, I think that the district could have benefited or can benefit from a neutral party, let's say a city councilor, bringing all the stakeholders to the table, the school community at Charlestown High School, the parents of all the different schools that could be funneled into Charlestown High School, because I think we can, all of us agree that the status quo is unacceptable. The graduation rate is extremely low. The attendance rate is extremely low, and hardly any neighborhood kids attend Charlestown High School. So that situation, and neighborhood kids want to attend Charlestown High School, and there's room, right? So I think the conversation needs to be had. It needs to be had in a very constructive way. And I think a big piece of that is going to run through the superintendent's search process and what kind of person we're going to have in that role. I'll obviously advocate as I am and participating in a really community focused, open and transparent recruitment process. I want to see and understand what kind of qualities people want in that person. For me, I would prioritize stability, because I think that's been one of the big obstacles. I want someone to stay here and promise to stay here at the very least 5 years, so that if we have a plan, we can implement it, because that's where BPS has gotten stuck a few times. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk about it offline, because otherwise I'll take up this whole meeting. But if the takeaway should be, we need to convene all of the stakeholders, have that conversation to chart a path forward for Charlestown High School.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Tanya. We really appreciate you coming tonight. Wish you all the best. And everyone, remember, the election is May
3rd.
May
Don't
3rd.
forget to vote.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right,
Nice to-
next up, we have Sierra D'Amico for outdoor dining. She's going to give us a quick update on that. It's our favorite topic. Sierra, let me open your mic and you're up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sierra D'Amico, the North End, West End, and Waterfront Liaison. So I really don't have much of an update yet. We do have a public meeting coming out next Thursday at 6 p.m. I have emailed the link to some people. It was also my newsletter and social media, so you can always find it there. Yeah, so I can't really touch more base on that. I mean, we'll have the finalized details about it next week if you guys all want to attend that. I'll drop my email in the chat if you guys have any other questions about it.
I'm going to put it in the chat right now, the link.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. And it's March 17th at 6 p.m.
Yes.
There's the Zoom link, everybody.
And then I put my email there too.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Yeah.
Anything else you need to share with us, Sierra? I know you have to run because you have yet another meeting to go to this evening, but I just wanted to see if there's anything else you needed to update us on. I'm sure everyone will be
That was really it.
good. Terrific.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Sierra. We'll see you next Thursday night for outdoor dining. Next up, Nikki Stewart is going to give us an update on the upcoming Lantern 2022 event coming up in April. Nikki, let me open up your mic. I'm really excited to go to this. Hold on one second. There we go. You should be open in a second. There you go.
Hi, thanks, Cheryl. Hi, everyone. I'm going to keep it super brief because I know we have a tight agenda, but there are actually 3 things I want to share quickly. The first is that the historic site, Old North Church, is reopening to visitors this weekend. We will be open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 5, and then Sunday after church services from 12:30 to 5. So if any of you have not yet been to the church, we are open. We have a new children's activity for children around ages 6 to 10 or 6 to 12. A good time for families. And in the Clough House, which is our old brick house on Unity Street, there are 2 things coming in there, either on April 1st or shortly after. The first is the return of the Eads and Gill print shop, which is a bit of a historic demonstration on a colonial printing press. And on the other side of the Clough House will be a new gift shop with New England made products. It's called Heritage Goods and Gifts. Again, both open on or about April 1st. The second thing that I wanted to just mention, and if folks have questions, I will put my email in the chat then and we can talk more, but to just give a high level heads up about some construction work that is about to happen at the church. Particularly if you are on Unity or by us on Salem and I have not papered your mailbox, let me know. Beginning at the end of May or early June, the National Park Service is going to do a really comprehensive renovation and restoration of the crypt underneath the church. It is the final resting place for 1,100 people, and it is in need of some repair. So that work, fortunately, is going to be almost all internal. So noise will not be a significant part of it. and it will be staged inside our gate off of Unity Street. The Freedom Trail will still be passable. We'll have the staging part like sectioned off. But if you're walking by and wondering what's happening throughout the summer, it's the crypt renovation. We are also about midway through our garden renovation in the Washington Garden, which is to the left of the church if you're standing on Salem. We've been repointing the walls, and that is almost done. And then after our lantern event on April 13th, we will repave the garden, put in new trees, new plants. It will be a very lovely space. So again, if you have not yet been to the church or you would like to see the garden, if you come back in the summer, it'll be a very nice outdoor space that we have. And then lastly, wanted to let everyone know about our annual lantern fundraising event that's coming up on April 13th. It's an event that really dates back to the bicentennial, so it's been going on for many decades, and commemorates the events of Patriots Day weekend and the two signals in Old North Steeple in 1775. This year, our honoree is Mike Bloomberg, who most of you probably know is a Boston area native, but he is also a lifelong lover of Boston history and of Old North and of the book Johnny Tremaine. So if any of you have read it, that is Mike's favorite book. So he is a Boston boy at heart. The event will be held from 6 to 9:30. And I'm gonna also put the link for that in the chat. If you're interested, you can purchase a streaming ticket to tune in from home, or we do have tickets available to join us at the church. And for the first time, the event will transition to a lantern signal kind of viewing party after the program over on the Prado. So if you're passing through the Prado on the 13th, you'll see our event planner kind of staging some stuff near NEMPAC, because we'll be using their restrooms. So thank you to Sherry if you are here. But if you're close by, know that we will be done by 9:30 at the latest. And there won't be any like loudspeakers or anything like that happening. So we'll keep it contained. But I'll stop there. I will put those two things in the chat. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to take a minute and answer them.
Yeah, does anyone have a question for Nikki? Looks like it's gonna be a great event. And we really want to take care of the Old North. If anyone has any questions, you can always send them to me or to the NEWRA address, and I'll get them over to Nikki. That we wish you all the best for your upcoming event, and thank you so much for giving us an update. And hopefully once everything is all done, you can come back and show us some pictures and let us know how all the construction went.
Yes, thank you. And I'm
Thanks,
popping
Nikki.
the links in the chat right now. Thanks.
Terrific, thank you. And Chris Cook is with us tonight from the Greenway Conservancy, and he's going to talk about their upcoming season because we're actually going to be able to go outside. It's going to be warm, and they've got a gala as well coming up on the Greenway. Chris.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Is it okay to share my screen briefly? I promise to be quick.
Absolutely. Let me just
All right.
open it up.
Thank you very much. And I can't tell you how excited I am about Nikki's updates. I mean, that's just absolutely unbelievable. Mike Bloomberg's going to be in the neighborhood, and that's a guy who knows something about climate resiliency. He's worked a little bit on that, so maybe we can all pick his brain about some of the challenges that are facing the north end of the Boston waterfront while he's in town.
Absolutely. Maybe he can get involved with us.
Every few hundred years they have to do a little construction on Old North, so that's perfectly understandable. So I'm just so happy for our counterparts, Nikki, and that honestly her plans for the open space after the construction is done is fantastic, and we know how critical open space is in your neck of the woods. So it's really, really great that they're showing that leadership. But just very quickly, I'm excited for everyone to find out at our gala on the Greenway, which is an in-person gala. It's going to be wonderful to celebrate. I hope as many of you as possible can make it. It's on June 9th, and we're going to have it at the Rings Fountain location. And the reason we're going to be having it at the Rings Fountain location is we're going to be debuting a dance festival that we'll be bringing to the park through the year 23. And so we're actually going to debut some of the dancers at the Rings Fountain. These are going to be site-specific dance, curated dances that take place throughout the park. And so we're excited to launch that. We're honoring Mayor Michelle Wu at our gala. Again, it's on June 9th at the Rings Fountain, early on in the summer. So hopefully we're not taking the fountain offline during a very hot summer evening, but hopefully it is still, you know, an enjoyable evening for everyone there. I will say the setup at this location, I think will actually provide a lot of access to the other open areas of the park. And so we're excited about the event in this space. The same hours are in place. There's no seated dinner here. You know, it's roughly about 3 hours. It's just past hors d'oeuvres and drinks. The setup will be about 2 days before, and then we'll get the park, the fountain up and running for the rest of the season for all the kids to be splashing around in the Rings Fountain. So we're really excited about that. June 9th. I'll drop the link into chat and hopefully all of you can join us. A few very quick updates. You'll be seeing some new wind jammers going up around the park. Those are our signage. They are trilingual. We worked with Mayor Wu's Office of Language Access. The QR code on our signage will actually bring you to these individual languages. And this is just part of the Greenways efforts, working with the mayor's office, working with our other nonprofit partners to make the waterfront, to make our parks as welcoming as possible to as many people as possible. Not only the tourists who visit our city, but also the residents who live in our city. You know, it's just really, really important to make sure that this is an inclusive space for everyone. And we're very grateful to our partners in city government who help make that possible. Very quick preview of programming that's coming up. But first I gotta take a victory lap of the amazing folks at the Friends of Christopher Columbus Park and their work working with us, the Greenway, and also Faneuil Hall Marketplace. If anyone experienced the Tunnel of Love extension this year, it actually, the love was so big this year, post-COVID, that, or you know, as COVID starts to decline, we actually spread it out over the Greenway and into Faneuil Hall Marketplace. And so we, you know, we were so proud to partner with the Friends of Christopher Columbus Park and Faneuil Hall Marketplace to take a really terrific idea and a wonderful intervention in the dead of winter and spread it throughout the Greenway. And we're also excited to celebrate the fact that we can all be together. So Trillium is opening up a little bit early this year. Hopefully the weather cooperates. I certainly was not expecting snow this morning, so I'm hoping there won't be any snow on St. Patrick's Day weekend. But we're very excited that Trillium will be opening, and we're also going to have some wonderful food trucks there while it's opening. And speaking of food trucks, we have an incredible food truck season coming up. And I think a lot of you noticed during COVID, a lot of our food truck partners, you know, they just couldn't do it. They couldn't make it work because the numbers weren't there to support. They couldn't pay their folks out there. So there were, you know, there were some days out there where there was only one food truck or none. Well, we have a full lineup coming back. And what's great about this is more than half are women and minority owned businesses. So these are small businesses that are really starting up in our city. And so we'd love to have you out there supporting them. And, you know, it makes me hungry just looking at this slide. So I can't wait for all of those food trucks to be out there. Just a quick construction update for all of you. North Meadow on the Greenway, which is parcel 2, really West End and North End. It's going to be a really critical open space, providing a pollinator garden, extending that ribbon for wildlife in our urban landscape, and just providing a really quiet moment in the hustle and bustle of the city. Construction's going very well there and it's moving along. We're looking forward to opening that up in the spring and summer this year. If you drive through Bullfinch Triangle, that's all the construction work that's happening right there in the middle. And of course, we have an incredible public art season coming up. We have our muralist picks, Rob Pro, Black Gibbs, Boston born and bred. It's an amazing muralist. You've probably seen his work all around the city. We're so excited to have him on the biggest wall in Boston. We're really excited about that. Amazing Chinatown artist that's going to create this really interactive stage for kids to perform on, working with folks like the POW Art Center. And then the return as well of Yuen Wu, who's bringing her lantern stories back to Chin Park. And if you didn't get a chance to experience that, and not a lot of people did because it was in the height of COVID, we're bringing this this installation back because this really tells the story, individual stories of Chinatown on these lanterns. And we think, post COVID, as part of our recovery, we can really celebrate all being together again in the park. Cheryl, that's all I have. I probably took more time than I should have.
No, not at all. This
grateful
is
to be here.
great. Thank you so much for letting us know. I think we all need something to look forward to as the weather gets better and we can go outside again and see each other.
I can't wait to see you all in the park. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really, best of luck to you and Nikki with what you both have going on for the community and, for the visitors to Boston. I think that's terrific. And hopefully we will all get out there to support you. So we have a quick addition to our meeting this evening. Barb Fromell from Air Communities. These are the folks that own One Canal, which is adjacent to the government central garage demolition that's going on. They asked if they could speak to the neighbors tonight and give a little update and see if we can get some community involvement. Barb, I'm trying to open your mic. There you go.
Hi there.
Thank you, Barb.
Okay.
Thanks
I'm
for
on the
joining us.
phone. Yeah, thank you for having me. I just wanted to give a quick update from the meeting last month when I think we had a couple dozen residents on at the meeting, and several of them were from One Canal. People were really really concerned about the construction noise at Government Center Garage. And there was a 2-week pause after that meeting in the construction, which was great. We did our best to stay in touch with Representative Michlowitz's office and with the city officials to try to find a resolution that was going to work for nearby residents. Then 2 weeks later, which was last week, the construction started again, and we immediately started to receive complaints from our residents again, just very concerned about the nighttime noise and not being able to sleep. And it really was a huge impact on people's lives and concerns about, not knowing when this is going to stop. And so Representative Michlowitz's office sent in a letter to the city, as did we. Ours was a formal complaint about the noise, and we requested that the construction stop until, and that the city stop issuing construction permits until a resolution can be found that protects the health and safety and well-being of nearby residents. So I'm not sure if any One Canal residents are on the line tonight, or if there are residents who are impacted by this, but just wanted to follow up on that and let folks know that we're doing everything we can as the owners of One Canal, and we're not going to give up until we find a resolution and a commitment from the developer and from the MBTA and the city and the state that, as construction moves forward, it'll take concerns and health and well-being of nearby residents into consideration as it moves forward with construction. So I would like to, I don't have the ability to access the chat from my phone, but we've been copied on several complaints, but not all complaints. So if you do feel like you're impacted by this and your voice isn't being heard, you could send your complaints to us, and we're happy to pass those on to the public officials as we hear about them. I'm going to give you my colleague's email address, and Cheryl, maybe I think you have it actually. Joseph,
I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, it's Joseph Ducat at aircommunities.com. So Joseph dot DUCATTE at aircommunities.com.
And folks, you can always contact me and I can get you in touch with Barb or with Joseph.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. And again, we're trying to, do everything we can to find a resolution to this. And hopefully that takes a little bit of the burden off of you guys. I know you're dealing with it every day and every night. And
Is the construction still going on now?
it has stopped again as of Friday night, I believe. So the Representative Michalowicz sent in his letter on Thursday afternoon, and we sent our letter in on Friday. And we were told as we received a response from the city chief of streets saying that as of that moment, the construction, at least the nighttime construction, had stopped. So, and as far as we know, it hasn't started again this week. But the problem is we haven't heard a plan. So we know it stopped, but it could start again tonight, and we don't know. So we're just really trying to ask for a plan that takes the needs of our residents into consideration, and some better communication coming from the developer and the city on this.
Well, yeah, it's all the residents. It's all the way across the Greenway and through the West End. I mean, it's loud, and it's going to go on for months. So yeah, keep us posted. I connected some of the residents in the North End with your group earlier today. And I know I've been copied on a few emails, so I know they've been going back and forth, which is great.
Great. Thank you so much. We know that you're hearing a lot of this as well. So thanks for helping to coordinate and
Yeah, please keep in touch and let us know, how we can help. And if there's a meeting that we can host, we've said that we'd host a community meeting, but no one's taken us up on it. So hopefully there are things going on behind the scenes and it will get dealt out. I know for a while they were, well, 1 or 2 weekends, they were busing people during the day so that they could do work and not do it at night. But I'm not really sure what happened after that. So.
Yeah, I'm not either. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some answers soon.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us tonight, Barb.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next up we have a ZLC. Victor, I'm going to open your mic. Hang on 1 second. And I'm going to open, I see Patricia Esposito. I'm opening yours. I'm not sure how that got up there.
Well, this,
Okay. Victor, you got to open your mic again. Hold on. Patricia Esposito, I just tried to open your mic. Is there anybody else's mic in with this group that I need to open? I'm not sure if you're represented by council. So Patricia, you need to click on the button because I tried to open you.
Sorry, I was trying. It's actually Park McDowell that's presenting on our behalf.
You got it. Hold on 1 second. I will open your mic, Park. Gotta find you. Huh, I saw you there a minute ago. Did we lose you, Park? What's Park's last name again? Patricia, I'm going to open your mic. Victor, I'm going to open your mic. Park, I saw you in here earlier. What's Park's last name?
Was the one that was trying to share.
McDowell. Okay, thank you, Jen. I'm looking to see if you're under your last name. You're not. All right, well, oh, Park, you're at the top because you started sharing. That's why you were not alphabetical. Okay, Park, your mic is open. Barb, your mic is open. Victor, I am trying to open your mic too.
thanks, Cheryl.
You're good. All set. Thanks.
Actually, mine is not necessary to open.
Okay, then
I'll
we'll.
turn it over to Park.
No, thanks, Victor. And I think I've got the key items on the screen here, so we can dive right in. I'm Park McDowell. I'm the architect for 211 Endicott Street. It's a project at a much smaller scale than what we were just discussing. I live in the North End on Unity, actually, right next to the Old North Church, next to that in the Prado, with my wife and my 3 young daughters. And being from the neighborhood, I'm particularly pleased to share this project with you today. It will be a lovely home and an appealing contributor, really, to our shared streetscape. So where are we in this process? Our building permit has passed the ISD review for code compliance, but we are seeking several modest zoning accommodations, which is why I'm speaking with you today. We already met with the Zoning and Licensing Committee a few weeks ago, and we've got open lines of communication with our direct abutters. And specifically, though I don't see them on the call, I'd like to thank the Benettis, Michael Jr. and Sr., as well as Sean Sanger, who I think is on the call. He's our neighbor behind us on Prince Street. Thank you, fellas, for your questions and your insights. I really value that engagement, and quite frankly, that's what makes our neighborhood great. Here's the current condition of the property. It's a small 16 by 40-foot lot with a 3-story building on it. It's zoned as single family right now, and it will remain that way. And the owners, Patty and John Esposito, intend to renovate this building as their home for them and for their 3 daughters. Incidentally, their 2 oldest girls go to elementary school at the Elliott, and they're classmates with my daughters. You can see 211 Endicott here, highlighted in yellow. It's part of this group of 3-story buildings, which has been surrounded by taller 5-story buildings at 207 and 209 Endicott to the right on the screen, and then all along the rear, along Prince Street, and then at the corner of Endicott there at 223, and again, a 5-story building across the street at 210. Our proposed project at 211 Endicott will reuse this existing foundation and the building footprint, but it will rebuild the structure and the interior configuration to adhere to current building codes. And we'll also add another level on top and a roof deck, as well as a deck to the rear yard. Specifically, we're here today as part of the zoning appeal process. We're already addressing the groundwater conservation overlay district requirements with a groundwater recharge system, so that item is closed here on this list. However, we are seeking relief from the other 3 items. These are the items for discussion today, and I'll go into each of them in greater detail. It's building height, the floor area ratio, and the rear setback. First, the building height. We are increasing the height of the existing building, so that automatically triggers zoning review. You'll note, however, that we're comfortably below the 55-foot height limit that's specified in Article 54. And it's also worth noting that our proposal is lower than the adjacent 5-story buildings at 209, 207, 223, 210, and behind us along Prince Street. We've got 44.5 feet to the top of our parapet on the street side and 52.5 feet to the very tip top of the head house. And that's set back quite a ways from the street. Second item, the floor area ratio. So our proposal slightly exceeds the allowable floor area ratio of 3.0. Just by adding the extra level, it tips us over that line, in fact, but it's really because of the small lot size. And a large percentage of that gross building area is consumed by the party walls and the new code compliant stair. You can see I broke that down here. The actual living area for this home for a family of 5 is less than 1,400 square feet. And then the head house increased this FAR a bit further, bringing us to a total of 3.23. This FAR is significantly lower than that of the larger buildings adjacent to our property. And lastly, the rear yard. The code specifies an empty setback space from the rear of the lot of 12 feet. None of the adjacent structures meet this requirement, and many, like 209 and 207, have 1-story structures that extend all the way to their lot lines. Our design for 211 calls for a deck, which extends right here out at the level of the kitchen across the backyard where the children might play. So with that, I think I've covered everything I need to. I'll conclude with this rendering showing the proposed design as seen from the street. I hope that you'll all agree that these requests for zoning relief are reasonable and that you will join me in supporting Patty and John as they build their family home here in the North End. Thank you very much. Welcome any questions at this time.
Yeah, let's see if we have any questions. Any abutters that have a question? I don't see.
You might have already talked to them all.
Yeah, I don't see the Benettis on here. Sean, I saw you on here. Sean Sanger, do you want me to open your mic? Do you have any questions? I'm really looking
Denise.
for hands. Anybody who's in a butter. Ah, hold on, Denise. I'm gonna open
Denise
your
might
mic.
have a.
Yep, I'm just opening your mic, Denise. There you go.
Hi, my name is Denise and my husband and I are on the call right now. His name is John and we live at 208 and we think your design looks beautiful. It actually looks very similar to us. I'm sure you'd say no to the design at 210, at our neighbor 210. We love Jerry and Sheila, but we support the former owners. We also support this this new development. I am curious about any considerations you're giving for what happens at this end of Endicott whenever we do construction, which is rodent control. This may be too new in the process to discuss it, but I just wanted to go on record as saying, you know, we have had issues with that. We are sitting next to 210, which has been a 6-year construction zone. Our 210 neighbors are wonderful neighbors. It's still a 6-year construction zone. And there's, as you know, there's permits next to you and next to you. So we've got a whole, in 6 or 8 buildings, we've got 4 permits going for construction. So we would just appreciate your attention to that, so that all the work that we've done at this end of Endicott to rid ourselves of our rodent neighbors maintains itself. We would appreciate any thoughts on that regard.
Yeah, that's a great prompt, Denise, and it's John back there too. Yeah,
John,
perfect.
yeah, John.
And I put my email in this chat also, so you can kind of reach out to me as questions continue to percolate. But I've got 2 notes on this. One, anymore with a new building permit, you've got to also file a rodent control plan, and so we've already done that. Actually, Ted, the general contractor, is on this call. So we've got a rodent control plan in place. We've got regular inspections scheduled, and then to kind of cap it all off, we're not changing the foundation. We're keeping what it is there. And we're just adding some micro piles to give us the requisite support, because it's insufficient in its current load bearing capacity. So minimal kind of interruptions plus a robust rodent control plan. I hope we'll be all right.
Okay, and if I could ask one more comment or make one more comment. We would really appreciate, we obviously know our neighbors next door really well, but we would really appreciate if we would have a contact name and number or whatever in case anything comes up. I do have to warn you, we're among the first Elliott parents that worked with Tracy, and she's a friend of ours. So we know we can find you through the Elliott, but we would prefer to contact the Espositos or you or whomever you put in charge personally, so we can say hello as well as be in touch if anything happens.
Yep. So I already put my email in the chat. I'm also going to put my cell phone number, so you can. I always have that with me. Do you see that in the
Yes,
chat?
thank you.
Yeah, we can see it.
Thank you.
Yep, and I'm right around the corner. So this is one of those projects that benefits from an engaged neighborhood owner building their own home, and an architect who's right there as well, and a contractor
We've
who does
got another
robust work
question.
and cares about the product.
All right, we have
Yep.
another
Hey,
question.
Sean.
Sean.
Hey, Park, thank you for presenting again. Yeah, I didn't want to kind of reiterate anything that Denise said. I thought we covered a lot of that at the ZLC, which was great. I do just have a question, though. I did pass along the drawings that you shared, so thanks again for that with my neighbors. I don't know if any of them are here tonight, but if they're not, I feel a little remiss not to at least ask the question again. So I think we kind of covered it, but with the back patio that comes off the kitchen, just getting some kind of, I don't know, comfort level of the proximity of the deck relative to the first floor units in our building and their patios out the back, so that there's still a little bit of privacy. You guys are definitely going to be elevated above their backyard. So just once again, so that you're not feeling like you're overlooking into somebody else's private space. So as long as, we can just kind of continue to talk through that. I don't have any reason why we say we couldn't, but definitely just get a little assurance for our first floor people that they'll still have some privacy in their backyards, much like you guys will as well. I'm sure you want that.
Certainly. Good note. Our drawings is submitted for permitting, and we intend to stick to those. Include a 6-foot fence all around the perimeter of the deck. That'll occlude any views between the ground level units. You can see that here.
Shawnee, do you have any follow-up? Are you all set? No, you're all set. Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions? I do not see any questions. Oh, I thought I saw a hand. Jen, I'm opening your mic, and Dave, I'll open yours in a minute. Jen, you're open.
I was just going to make a motion.
Okay, good. Yeah,
If
please.
we're not ready for that, I can hold.
Let me see if Dave has a question. Hang on.
Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. Hi, Park. We met at the ZLC meeting a couple weeks ago, and I had a few comments that I'd like to share tonight and maybe a couple other questions. I'm just curious as to the use of the building immediately prior to the current owners. I know you said it was zoned as a one family, it will remain a one family, but how was the building used?
By my understanding, it was, it was used by the previous owners, and Denise, I think you and John can weigh in better than me here. But right after the previous owners left, it became the Esposito's.
So the previous owners used it as a single family home.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes, it was Sheila and Jerry Moretti and their two sons who were out of the neighborhood, and they're in their 30s, 40s, maybe close to 50, with children of.
Oh,
And the footprint of the building is very small, so it would probably take those 3 floors to accommodate them at the time. I raised the issue about abutter impacts, and this gets at the zoning code, Article 54, Section 18, impacts to abutters. And it certainly seems to me that the abutters immediately behind you in the building that Sean Sanger lives in, it's a fairly large building. I believe they're all condo owners, and that some of them are going to lose some sunlight. And if I may not be right, but it seems like they'll lose sunlight later in the day, late afternoon or early evening or so. So there will be some loss of light. I've experienced that myself with a building that was constructed recently across the street from me. I lost a lot of sunlight when that building went up. So, and I don't know how much those owners know about the project, have thought about the potential for impacts to them, and whether they've been a part of a conversation with you. I'm particularly concerned about the top floor owner of that building behind you, because they will be looking directly at your roof deck. And I understand that there'll also be a jacuzzi on the roof deck, and wondering how the views of all of that will be protected from those residents behind you. Also on the roof, it appears the head house appears to be very large, at least in these drawings. But then again, the building isn't very wide. It's only 16 feet wide. But can you speak also to the size of the head house and the configuration? It seems like the broad side of the head house will be facing the building behind you, and therefore have the greatest impact on views and possibly light on that building. And then I've got one other issue to bring up after you address those.
I think I'll remember those in order. I'm going to tackle them one at a time though, okay, Dave? So number one, I think the question is, will this new building block light and views? And I mean, that is the question. I think it's one that matters a lot to me as an architect, and it's one that matters to Patty and John as the neighbors of the people down there on Prince Street. So I investigated it, and both by circumstance and by design, we're in a good place. But let me dig into that a bit, because it is important. So there are 2 basic varieties of light that affect our perception. And one is direct light, that is light from a focused source, which causes shadows like hard sunlight. And the other is the ambient light, the general atmospheric light, which allows us to see color and texture, even in areas of shadow. So starting with direct light, there is this larger building directly to the south of us, and you can see this here. Almost all the shadow that the new construction at 211 would generate falls within the shadow of that larger existing building. So no added shadows on top of that, because it's already in shade. Except, as you know, for early morning in the summer, when the sun is coming from way over here to the east, in which case Prince Street is actually shading us, or that's these buildings shading the yellow, or very late in the afternoon, in the early evening in the summer, when these taller buildings across North Washington Street cast shadow over the entire block. So that's direct sunlight. For ambient light, we've got this 30-foot wide courtyard between the two rows of buildings, between 211 Endicott and the abutters to the rear. We are maintaining the existing footprint, and the extra level doesn't significantly impact the ambient light reaching the bottom of the courtyard because that's predominantly defined by the taller adjacent buildings. So that's a long way to say, in short, the proposed construction is positioned and scaled to minimize impacts on daylight and also thereby views.
And
And then,
the roof,
so roof deck is next. Yep. So I'm going to go there. Thanks for the prompt. Otherwise, I'd be talking about daylight all the time. So here you see in the roof deck, we've got the head house, the parapet, which extends up above the deck, a fence up to 6 feet. So I'm going to go to the plan now and show you what that looks like. Here on the roof, up here at the top, you see a 6 foot above the level of the, it's not 6 foot above the parapet.
Park, can you show what side of the building, what end of the building is facing Endicott
Yep.
Street, and what part of the building is facing the building behind you?
Yep. So looking at this rooftop, roof level plan, this is Endicott Street. And in here is the courtyard between our building and the buildings that face Prince Street. And here is the stairwell that you discussed. It takes basically the space of the stair and a hallway. And then here is, and we need those stairs to make the extra height on this last floor. We've got a 42-inch tall parapet, which hides most of the things on the roof. So it's a pretty considerate approach in that way. And you see it reads well from the street. And then on top of that, we have a fence, which adds about another 2.5 feet on top of that, which shields the views, direct views to the hot tub to above. Now, you do raise a good point because the building behind us is about 20, a little bit more than 20 feet taller than 211 right now. That'll be diminished when we add the extra floor, but it will still be taller than this building. So will it block views? Not hardly. I mean, not of the city at least, because it's taller. And also we've got that taller building, don't forget, across the way, across North Washington. Will you be able to see down into it? I don't think so, because it's not that much taller and we have the fence. Similarly, mechanical equipment is shielded by that same fence.
Okay, and can the head house be repositioned so that the broad side of it faces the adjacent buildings and not the building behind, which contributes to even a greater blocking of view?
Yep.
Could it have been turned the other way?
Yep, it's a valid question. And while I don't think it is a significant impediment to views, and I know it's not for light, the answer to your question is really about the structure of the building. So in the foundation, we've reinforced the foundation along these walls. We have load-bearing walls, and we've got a very simple structural system which basically divides it into 3 different bays. Because of that, we need to maintain those bays, and you see it going all the way up the building. So we don't have the option to then rotate it as we go out to the top on the head house. We need to maintain that same bay system, and that's why we are oriented as we are. Now, bear in mind, it's not very wide, about 12 feet anyway, so it's not a significant mass, but it's not one that can be rotated.
And apparently there's no requirement for setback of the deck from the front edge of the building. Is that correct?
Well, you raise a great point on that, because there are requirements in Article 54 about setting back roof structures. However, that's generally on buildings with flat roofs without any elevated parapet, and it's designed to shield, you know, the street views from things that are on the roof. Here, because of the elevated parapet, the deck kind of sits low, and so it already accommodates most of those things. And this is actually something I spoke about with Neil and the rest of the folks over at zoning. This passed their review, and they've got very careful eyes, and we tried to calibrate in such a way that not just meets the letter of the zoning code, but the spirit of the zoning code, which in my mind, as a designer and as a neighbor, is more important. So that's what we tried to do here.
Okay, my other comment has to do with construction. And as I mentioned at ZLC, I supported a major building project directly across the street from me, and our street is only about 12 feet wide, Cleveland Place. And my neighbors and I went through absolute hell for 2 years. And my landlords on the second floor, just beneath me, were in their 80s and not well, and they went through the worst of the hell for those 2 years. So I'm very concerned about the impacts to neighbors during construction, whatever can be done to mitigate those impacts. But what's also important is the neighbors should know, should anticipate what's happening and when it's going to happen and what kind of impacts there may be. So I hope that you will share with all of your butters and neighbors a construction plan and schedule so they know when this is occurring, what's occurring at what time. When are you doing demolition? When are you doing the foundation improvements, the piles that will go in, and so forth and so on. And especially if there's any utility work that has to be done in the street, under the sidewalk or in the street, that can be tremendously noisy. So please share some kind of a construction plan and schedule with them, but then also provide updates periodically, especially when you anticipate an especially noisy or dusty part of the project. If they're kept informed ahead of time, it greatly will help them, and it will also help you.
Yeah, you raise a great point there. And for me, the most important part of what you said isn't the fact that we're going to be doing work and that it's going to be noisy and disruptive. It's about communicating ahead of time, to take away some of the uncertainty. So it's like, okay, I've got my really important Zoom call and I'm going to take it from home. And then today is the day that we're going to jackhammer out who knows what. What I'd rather do is do like we're already doing. In fact, if you walk by the street right now, you'll see a notice posted on the building. It talks about the scheduled work to begin the week of 3/14, where we're going to start doing some of the interior shoring. Now, this is not noisy work, but it's well communicated to any passerby. And that in addition to the direct line of communications that we have with the immediate abutters. That's going to be the kind of approach that I anticipate from our builder in this project, and Ted has a great track record of that. So that's what we're going to try to do. We will make noise, but we'll tell you about it before we do it.
Well, your abutters, a few of your abutters just heard that, so hopefully they'll also hold you to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Sean has a
absolutely.
question. Sean, I'm opening your mic.
Yeah, no, David, just to kind of follow up on that, Parker, I don't know if you want you to be the contact or if you want to be able to share whoever's going to be on site, but if you can give that information to me, I'll share that with my neighbors as well, just so they've got a person to reach out to for that info. That would be great. One other question that just came to mind though, just because we are a little taller than you, is there any proposed lighting going up on the roof deck as it relates to the head house? Because that's the piece of the puzzle. Sometimes there's emergency lights and they'll stay on all night long. So just the curiosity, if there's anything like that that'll be up on that or a part of that head house would be really important to know as well.
Yeah, no, we're not going to, have floodlights pointing your direction. There will be illumination on the roof, but bear in mind this is a single family residence, so it's not seeing the same kind of activity that you might see on a larger building, and it also has the kind of accountability that you don't get on a larger building. If I was to choose a neighbor, this would be the one I'd have.
So are there gonna be lights on the roof deck?
Yes, of course. You need to have lights on the roof. They will be
So-
down lights focused on the roof.
Does that answer your question, Sean?
Yeah, I think it's all a matter of the kind of the fixture selections at the end of the day. If you do more of kind of the traditional wall packs that are more of a frosted glass, those I can see the top of the Beverly from my bedroom and they're screaming bright. There's a glare. It's not like I'm getting foot candles in my apartment, but there's a lot of glare. So I think it's all about the selection of those fixtures. And if they're housed and they direct it down park, then that's definitely going in the right direction. But if it's a little more of the utilitarian ones, that's definitely a different kind of a glare factor. that if it was me living behind, might be a bit of a problem. So once again, it's just getting the right fixtures in there.
I totally agree, Sean. And I'm laughing just because this is a landscape architect and an architect talking about light fixtures. It sounds like another day at the office. We could go on like this for a while. No, thank you. Really good note. And we will keep that in mind as we select fixtures.
Terrific. All right, can I get a motion? Jen, I opened your mic. You were making a motion before.
Sure, I move that we instruct members to vote either in favor or support for this matter by email as shared in the chat.
Yeah, I'll put the email again in. You can email and I'll get everybody a vote in the morning. So vote to approve or oppose, please. There you go. Email address newra.board@gmail.com. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We'll see you all on April 14th. And I hope everybody has a good weekend. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Bye.